meeting. So you'll should hear something. All right, we should be good to go. Welcome everyone. We have about 45 people on. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Maria Guzman Rocha. I am the director of the Enrichment Portfolio. Welcome to the Enrichment Portfolio. For those of you who are returning, welcome back. For those of you who are new to our portfolio, we welcome you all with open arms. We look forward to meeting you all. I'm going to introduce our team in a couple of minutes, but wanting to start off with thank you for sharing your foods that you will not eat. I'm actually, when we introduce our team, I want to give them a chance to say the foods that they will not eat. But I agree with many of you all on a lot of these: celery, tomatoes, I think onions might have come up here, raw onions. Just wanting to give you all a chance to introduce yourselves and also to network with each other. So maybe now you know someone in common that does not like peanut butter or crawfish or something like that. So again, welcome. We are going to spend some time talking through contract information. We have a time at the end of this for questions and answers. Just a reminder that you all can chat in questions as those come up. So some quick housekeeping items. The recording feature was started, so if for whatever reason you don't want to be recorded, just keep that in mind. Mute yourself when you're not speaking. We have quite a big group here, and so we want to eliminate background noise. Use the raise hand or chat feature. I will stop at certain points of the presentation in case folks have questions. You just raise your hand and I can call on you. The presentation slides will be emailed to everyone. So I know that's always a really quick question that comes through. So yes, everyone will receive an email with the slides themselves. And please note that you can always email your youth services coordinator if you have any specific questions about your budget, your work plan, anything that we discussed today. All right, so I'm going to first situate us in the larger division. So the group that you are meeting with today is the enrichment group, and that is on the far right, but we sit in the youth services division here at the Department of Family and Support Services. So just in case you're wondering who you're talking to, if this link was sent to you and you weren't familiar, we sit in a division of about 24 folks that work on youth programs that serve youth across the city. So we are in wonderful company. If you have a mentoring grant, or if you have a SCAN grant, or if you're working with the Chicago Youth Service Corps, these are all folks that sit within our division, that sit next to us, literally in some cases. And so I just wanted to point out that we are one division, but there are separate portfolios and separate programs with different requirements, different budget things that come up. So just to ensure that everyone knows that this is for the purposes of today's meeting, this is for the enrichment funded delegates. So I will actually present the enrichment group now. I'm going to ask them to take themselves or put themselves on camera and take themselves off mute so that they can introduce themselves to you themselves and tell you which is their basic food that they will not eat. I'll start off with mine. I will not eat celery. Don't even try to douse it with peanut butter because that's not going to do it. So I will pass it over to Tess.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tess Landon. I'm the project manager for the enrichment team portfolio. And I begrudgingly do not like grapefruit. I wish I did, but I do not. Pass it on to Caesar.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm pretty open-minded about what foods. I pretty much try anything. So yeah, we'll pass it on over to Karen Nolan.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Karen Nolan. I'm a youth service coordinator with the school year enrichment portfolio, and I will not eat liver. I'll pass it over to Liz.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth, but I go by Liz. I am a youth services coordinator, and I refuse to eat olives. I'm gonna pass it to Jessica.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jessica Bailey Washington. I'm a youth service coordinator, and one of the foods I do not like to eat is green beans. And I will pass it over to Karina.
Hello, everybody. My name is Karina Estrada, Youth Service Coordinator, and one of the foods that I will not eat is hot dogs.
We couldn't hear you, Karina.
Oh, is my mic working?
Yeah, you just cut off when you said the
Oh.
food.
Oh, I said hot dogs.
Hot dogs. All right, thank you. Thank you all for sharing in the chat. I think now if you heard something that you can identify like I said, we have that in common now. I wanted to give a moment to acknowledge all of our delegates that have been selected for funding under the enrichment portfolio. So that is school year, year-round, or CHA year-round for 2023-2024. And we have 80, let me see, what did I write? 86 agencies, I believe it is, 83 agencies and 125 programs. So we are privileged to have such a great list of agencies that have joined us this year. The agencies that have an asterisk are running multiple programs, and I may have missed a couple. So if your agency does not have an asterisk and you have multiple program models, my apologies, I will ensure that that's corrected, but wanting to acknowledge the work that you all are doing. So this is really, really exciting for us to be able to work with agencies that have been part of our portfolio, but also agencies that may have been part of One Summer or other program models and are now joining the enrichment portfolio. Okay, so we're all here to kick off the 2023 year primarily with contract information. Many of you have been communicating with your youth services coordinator, program managers, what they're listed under, and I'll talk about that in a second. And many of you have had questions. We've sent many emails back and forth, some with corrections, some with new information. And so in an effort to be clear and transparent and ensure that we are all on the same page, we put together this meeting very quickly so that everyone has this information and can share it with others. And if things come up, you have something to reference. I will start with, if anyone has anything that a burning question that is general enough for everyone to benefit from, please throw it in the chat box now. I will try to take a moment after this session or this section to answer some questions that come through. So if you have any burning questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat box now, and we may answer them as we move through, but I want to make sure everyone feels comfortable with questions that you may have. All right, so the overview of the contractual process for new awards here at DFSS is pretty standard. For those of you who are agencies that have been working with us in any capacity at the department, it is a slow process. That may be an understatement sometimes. It is a complex sometimes process. There are a lot of details that we ask and that need to be paid attention to. And this is why we continue to be really thoughtful about providing you all with additional time and resources for you all to have to complete what you need to complete. Okay, so I will start off with the initial step is obviously, some of this may be very basic, but again, we're setting the groundwork so that everyone's on the same page. An agency will receive an award letter with award information, contract liaison and program manager information via email. Okay, so you receive a PDF with an email or email with a PDF attachment with all of this. And this information generally goes to the contact person that was put into the RFP back in that stage. I will go through each one of these in detail. So this is just a really quick overview of the process. The agency then also receives an email from me, from the enrichment director, with program document instructions, including a request to submit a city span point of contact. So everyone that's on this call and all of the agencies that have been funded should have received both of these things, an award letter and an agency or in an email from myself. Yes, I will share the PowerPoint with everyone afterwards. Okay, so then what comes next? Then your agency gathers the documents in terms of contract documents. We're talking about what those look like in a second. So those documents will be collected and go to the contracts liaison. Contracts liaison reviews the submitted documents, and then if an agency needs to make corrections, they will receive an email from contracts saying you need to submit this or this was not correct. On the program side, the agency point of contact, so that person that you designated as the point of contact for CitySpan, they will receive login information for the new CitySpan system. So let me say that again. For those of you who are returning, if you go into the CitySpan system that you currently have access to from 2022 and before that, I think it's been around for like ages, you are not going to be able to submit 2023 information. The 2023 information is going into a new, upgraded, more user-friendly, hopefully way easier to navigate CitySpan system. And you do need to have a new login for that. If anyone that is a returning agency wants to share in the chat what their experience has been with the new system, if you've completed your work plan, please feel free to do that because we're always open to hearing how things are going. But in our eyes, it's a lot easier to navigate, and the entire system is not ready, and I'll go through that in a second as well. But just so you know that it's going into a new system, the agency will complete, sign, and submit the work plan in the new system. The program manager will review the submission, and then if needed, the agency will make corrections in the system. All of this is happening within the CitySpan system. An agency, great, Melissa, I'd love to hear that. In terms of the next part of this is an agency will submit and will complete and sign the budget form to the program manager, in which case this is the youth services coordinator. Then the program manager then reviews the submitted budget, and if needed, the agency makes corrections to the budget and resubmits to the program manager. And this may be a multi-cycle process or multi-step process where you'll get your budget returned to you for one thing, maybe another. It may take a while, but that's the point, is that we're reviewing and we're sending it back to you. I'm looking at my notes and not the slide, so there's the rest of that. The city reviews final contract and program documents, processes, and approves the contract. And then that means your contract is executed. It is posted online, and you can search for it using this website here. At this point, this is where you can then start vouchering. I know I've had some questions about that. Some things have come up. You cannot voucher or submit expenses until your contract has been approved by the city, by City Hall, not us, at DFSS, and it's posted online. Okay, so thank you. Thank you so much. Look, I love this. You all are helping each other out here. Submissions generally do have to be in PDF format. I can answer that already, and we'll go through what that looks like in a second. But if you have any challenges at your agency, if you don't have access to a PDF, work with your youth services coordinator. And as long as you're sending them something that can be easily PDF'd, that is a possibility. Okay, so let's go through each of these steps in detail. So here you see, and you can disregard this right-hand side for a second, but on the left-hand side, you see the award letter, what the award letter looks like. Hopefully you all have seen the award letter for your agency. And if not, you should request it to your leadership or whoever received it so that you can know what is in that. And the award notice is the second page of that. So a few things to point out is your program manager, who is listed on this award notice, is your youth services coordinator. That's their title, but in the award letter notification, they're listed as the program manager. Your contract liaison, who you should be sending contract documents to, is listed, and your finance accountant, whom you will hear later on from potentially, is also listed on here. But in terms of the budget for finance purposes, your youth services coordinator is the one you submit those documents to, not your finance accountant. There is one thing to note. The school year letters, the school year program model letters went out with my information instead of Karen's. So although I would love to interact with all of you one-on-one, Karen is the person that you will be interacting with. So her information is up there. And obviously most of you have been in contact with her already. So that is something to note. Year-round is Caesar, he's your point of contact, except for those agencies that have multiple program models, in which case Caesar is the person for year-round and school year. Most of you can disregard that statement. For those of you who have multiple program models, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, reach out. And then for CHA year-round, it is Jessica Bailey Washington. All right. I will actually pause there and see if there's any questions. If anyone, team, do you all see any hands raised? Usually they come up to the top. So it looks like we don't have any questions here. We'll cover deadlines and modifications. We will cover city span training, what that looks like in a little bit. Okay, looks like we don't have any questions so far. Okay, so the award letters then highlight 2 sets of documents to submit to 2 sets of people. So first is the contract documents from your or to your contracts liaison. So in the case of the sample, it was Remily. So all of your contract documents would get sent to Remily if that's what it says. And these are the contracts. And this is just a straight screenshot from the award letters themselves. The contracts documents are on this website that's listed here at the bottom. And it is really just the city contract itself, the cover page with the PO number, the specification number, etc. And then you have what you would submit is the signature page, and that needs to get signed by the person authorized to sign contracts. In most cases, it's the executive director. And then the certificate of liability insurance and the economic disclosure statement, if at all not applicable, then certainly something to consider. But these are all documents that go to your contracts liaison. David Wu has a very good question about committed compensation and maximum compensation. The committed compensation is the award amount that you will be receiving. So for example, if you receive a grant of $54,000, that is what you will be receiving every year until the contract ends. I could potentially say ignore maximum compensation because that is for internal documentation of the maximum amount that we can allot each contract. So it doesn't mean that that's how much you will be receiving. It's just internal tracking of what each contract could potentially receive altogether. And then in terms of asking for additional funds, unfortunately, we have all of the budget for the enrichment portfolio committed at the moment. So unless we have an agency that rescinds a contract, meaning that they have to step away, we don't have any additional funding currently outside of like other RFPs or other opportunities. Great question though. Okay, so in terms of program documents, there are 2 big buckets of program documents to be submitted. So you see a list here, and some of these, may not be applicable to you, in which case that's fine. But you can see what these look like. So we have program documents in terms of the budget template. So that is available on the city website. And then you have the scope of services, which is synonymous with the work plan. You have the template on the city website. That template is perfectly acceptable in terms of collecting information, right? There are questions in there about your plans for programming, your goals, how many youth you're going to be serving, or in which ways are you going to be collecting information, things like that. But we are not collecting scopes via PDF this year. I mentioned that earlier, I mentioned it again. Work plans will be completed directly into CitySpan this year. And I've already heard that it's easy to submit, it's easy to complete, so that's very exciting. And it's really in hopes to avoid this extra step, because in the past we used to do it via PDF and then you would have to enter it into CitySpan anyway. So we have launched the system where you can enter it directly into CitySpan. So this is again, reiterating the content of the template will go into the CitySpan system. This is especially important for the CHA year-round agencies. I'll go through that in a second, but you don't have access to a work plan yet. So you'll want to look at the website for the CHA work plan and start gathering that information so that when it is open and available, then you have it accessible. And this happened with the other program models as well. The template was there so you can collect the information, and now it's now you can enter it into CitySpan. And this is just a really quick screenshot of what the system itself looks like. And I'll also go through additional screenshots of it in a second. Okay. So program documents, again, just to talk about what the new system looks like. There is a wonderful new landing page. There's a couple of things to point out in this landing page. There is the technical assistance section. You can always email CitySpan or call them. They have a toll-free number that you can call for support. If you are having trouble logging in, or if you are having technical issues, you're more than welcome to reach out to them. And then there's also a really helpful DFSS CitySpan support guide that our team created with a step-by-step process of what submitting a work plan will look like. So this is a hugely helpful resource that you all have access to, that is via Google Docs. So you don't need special permission or anything to access it. So please take advantage of it and click on that. This is what it looks like when you actually click into it. So you can see that there are screenshots of things, and there are different sections for when you want to navigate and you can figure out what this looks like. If you are not the CitySpan point of contact, you obviously don't need to worry about this. But if the CitySpan point of contact is not on this call, this is something that you'll want to share with them if they don't already have access to this or were not aware of it. So this is what that looks like. And there are 3 quick to-dos when it comes to submitting the scope. You have to complete the agency profile form. So this is even before you get to the work plan. You do have to complete the agency profile form. So there are several questions there. And then you also have to complete the program contact information form. And there are several questions there. And then finally, the third thing to do is complete the program contract work plan. And that is a series of 4 steps where you go through each of the sections and you answer the questions that are in that template that I referenced earlier. That's in PDF. There are a lot of questions. It's a pretty extensive narrative. We really want to utilize this as a basis of what it is that you're doing in your programs and ensuring we have adequate information to support you all in the work that you're doing with your young people. I will pause here for CitySpan or work plan questions. It doesn't sound like we have any.
Hi, Maria, it's Melissa. I just wanted to make sure that I heard you correctly. You said for CHA that although we can complete the CHA work plan, but it's not open on CitySpan yet, correct? Okay,
Yes, you have access to the template through the
Mhm.
city website, the contracts website, it's in there. So you can look at the PDF and see the questions. And to be transparent, they're very similar to the year-round program questions.
It is. It's
So you
almost
should
verbatim.
have, what's that?
I said it's almost verbatim.
Yeah. They're year-round programs, and the goals of the program are pretty similar on our end. So yes. So once we have access to that, we'll send you all an email and you can just enter the information.
Okay, thank you so much.
Other questions? This is the chance to.
I have a question.
Sure.
Uh,
I know.
From CYBC. Hi. I just have a question regarding, like protocol for like response time, when it comes to like submitting budgets or submitting, contract documents and stuff like that. And so I understand like we have, our own deadlines for us, but are there any expectations about when we can receive, whether it's corrections that we need to make to a budget or something like that?
Sure.
Yeah, that's all I
that's
need.
a great question. And the team has been asked to respond within 48 hours. So 2 business days, with the understanding that, so the 24 to 48 hour rule or practice is to acknowledge receipt of the documents, right? So that the program manager, youth services coordinator has received. The contracts team, I think there's someone on here from there. They may have a little bit different, but generally you should get an acknowledgement of that documents have been received. And then it may take some time to acknowledge corrections or things that are not coming through. For the most part, I would say about 90% of budgets need some kind of correction. The idea of today is to get ahead of that, a little later than we would have wanted to, but the holiday time really put a damper on all of us meeting deadlines. So moving forward, we want to acknowledge that we've received your documents so that the team has that in mind, and then ensure that there's a quick and thorough review of what may need to be corrected and letting you know ASAP. So if for whatever reason, you've submitted something, they've acknowledged receipt, and the final deadline it's Tuesday, right? This coming Tuesday, that is what we are standing with. But you don't get a correction until next Thursday, an email about a correction, that's okay. That means that an initial budget was sent by the deadline. So we're trying to be flexible and also understanding that our youth services coordinators are working with a lot of contracts, a lot of budgets, and a lot of paperwork. So we'll be graceful with each other. So we ask that you respond within a couple of days, and we'll set that expectation for ourselves as well. All right. Any other questions? We appreciate those questions and want to be thoughtful about your time and our time as well. Okay, so let's go through scope/work plan. There are a couple of screenshots here that are coming straight from the support guide around what you're expected to do and then what happens afterwards. So this may be where a lot of you are. You've submitted your work plan, you haven't heard back. As a blanket statement, no work plans have been approved. So thank you in advance for your patience. The CitySpan system is still under development and it's being launched in phases. So now the work plan approval process has been set. We're good to go. So in the next week or so, if you've submitted a work plan, you should have word of if you need to make a correction or not. Okay, so that's across the board. Obviously not for CHA year round, but for the other 2 program models, if you have submitted a work plan, you will hear within the next week or so if you need any corrections. Okay, so upcoming features, like I said, it's under development. everything that you were able to do, for those of you who are returning in CitySpan, you will still be able to do even better now. We're going to have an enrollment portal, so agencies will not be responsible for entering youth into the system. Hopefully that's really good news for you all. Parents and guardians will be responsible for enrolling young people, or young people themselves if they're over the age of 18. You're going to have the ability to add in different program sites. So all your site locations that you list in a work plan will be associated with attendance, with enrollment, things like that, group and individual activities, events, attendance, etc. And the CitySpan point of contact will be informed about the system launch and a training. So similar to the support guide, we will be releasing resources and quick videos around each of the new features, and even not new features, but new to this system with the CitySpan point of contact folks. You are welcome, Peggy. Okay, so, I missed a question here. Should an out of office reply suffice as confirmation of receipt of docs? No. I don't think that's fair either on your end or on our end. If you did receive an out of office, that means that the person is probably still working through things. If we receive an out of office, we hope that there is a way to communicate with someone else, or if not, that when the person returns, that they will, let us know where they're at with things. Okay, so let's move on to budgets. I think a lot of you may have questions about this, so please feel free to start putting them in the chat. The budget form has multiple forms to it, so multiple ways of submitting information. This is the cover page, so form 1. There is information that is highlighted that will need to be entered. I'll go through that in a second, but we do have guidelines and multiple resources on where to find some of this information, and most, if not all of it, is in your award letter. If there is something that you are not familiar with or don't know, feel free to contact your youth services coordinator before you even submit it. Just say, hey, I don't know what this is, or I don't know where to find this. That is what they are there for. So this is really up to each agency to figure out what their budget looks like. These are the support documents that we have sent. So there's a budget and work plan guidelines document that has a ton of detail, very text heavy, but also hopefully helpful in detailing a lot of these issues that have come up. There are standard budget form instructions that come from they're just very generic, so feel free to reference those if you'd like. And there are 3 supplemental documents that are specifically for the youth division. So there's a budget allowable items of expenditure that for each category of expense gives you an idea of what to include in that category to very extensive detail. So I'd advise that you all use that if you have questions about where things go or where you might put certain things. The CTA and gift card procedures memo is FYI in terms of tracking who receives gift cards. There is a process to that. And then the CTA and gift card tracking sheet example is a spreadsheet where that's where you want to keep track of who gets gift cards. So we have all of that available to you. You don't need to submit that to us, but you do need to use it in case you get audited later. I'm like waiting for a flood of questions to come through. Okay, we'll keep moving. Budget reminders, AKA the most common errors. Under Form 1, the contract term, budget term, and award amount are in your agency's award letter. I just said that a little while ago too. The enrichment match requirement must be at least 15%. So many of you may have already gotten an email saying it's at 5%, it needs to be 15%. Form 2, add in personnel working on this program, even if it's not within the grant share. So if there's someone working with the enrichment program and they're not getting paid out of this grant, you can still add them and then just add their cost under agency's other share. Provide brief job descriptions. There's been quite a bit of back and forth with, I can't fit everything, or the text won't wrap, or I can't fit everything into this box. It doesn't need to be, I know it's easy to cut and paste, but it doesn't need to be expensive. It doesn't need to be extensive. It can be very brief. The updated budget form on the city's website, so in the FSS contracts website, will allow for wrap text. Some of you may not have that, and some of you may have been dealing with this, and there are ways to get around it, but the updated budget form will allow for you to wrap the text in the cell so that you can fit everything in there. And if it is going beyond the cell, it's too long. Oh, sorry. Form 3. So for those of you returning agencies, for the past, I don't know how many years, you've been asked to write in cost for food as snacks. We have done away with that, and you are now allowed to buy food for program participants as long as it's spelled out as food for program participants. And it must include a cost breakdown. So you can't say $5,000 for food throughout the year. You have to say the number of youth times the amount of the food equals however much you're expecting to spend. All right. Transportation must also include a cost breakdown. So if you expect to get 2 buses for 2 events twice a month, you calculate all that out for a total. The more detail there is, the more quickly this will get passed through. There is a question around something about cost. Can you clarify what we need to keep for audit in terms of the bus cards and whatever else? I will send that in a follow-up, just because I want to make sure that I phrase that correctly. And I can follow up with how long you need to keep records for as well. Indirect cost. This is another common error and reminder. Under Form 3, line 0801, you must select one of the options. Even if you're electing to decline indirect costs, which is option D, you have to select D. In the budget and work plan guidelines, I've gone step by step through how to type in your agency name in that cell if you select any of the other 3 options, so A, B, or C, because there's a way to do that, not doing it directly in the cell. Some of you won't know what I'm talking about, but if you do know what I'm talking about, reference the work plan guidelines document. Two more things about budget. This here, you'll see on the bottom right-hand corner, Antonio Zamaron's information. That's the version you need to use, because we are seeing that a lot of them are coming through with Mahida Cizak's information, who was the person approving them last year. So just make sure that you're seeing this name, not another name. And that means that you're using the correct budget form. And then the final thing is to submit all completed forms, including the signed first page, as one PDF to the program manager. There was one point, and this is my apologies, there was one point where I said one PDF per form. I meant one PDF per document. So a PDF for the budget form, a PDF for the lease agreement if you have it, PDF for something else, naming them correctly. Jaquanda, did you have a question?
I do. I actually have 2. The first one is on Form 3. I have been given 2 sets of instructions verbally. One is that to include food for program participants under line 0300 for materials and supplies. And then I was also given to put it under 0999. Can you let me know which one is the correct one?
Sure. It depends on what you're using the food for. So if it is a food, like a daily food expense, so if it's snacks, don't write that, but if it's snacks or meals, you include that in the 0300. If it is food for an event, a large gathering, an open house, something where you're doing something bigger, then you include it in the other. Is that
Yeah, thank you for that.
answer your question?
Thank you for that. My second question is, I spent a good part of the day yesterday and a little bit of today trying to figure out how to put all forms into one PDF document. Do you all have any kind of steps or suggestions for folks who use Mac computers on how to do that?
Good question. If anyone here is a Mac user, I'm not, honestly, I'm not a Mac user. I don't have.
I'm not sure if this would work, but just to clarify that, like the budget form, the way that you receive it is as one document. So you should just be able to save it as a PDF in the way that it comes, and you shouldn't have to combine multiple documents. Like the forms are all part of one Excel sheet. And then if you like, however you do it, if you save to PDF or print to PDF, you can just, it should just save it as one document.
Are you a Mac user or a PC user?
Yeah, on a Mac.
Oh, because that doesn't happen for me. It just saves the form that I'm on. Can you maybe say what you do exactly? Because when I do that, it only saves the form that I'm actually on.
Just the sheet that you're on, you mean?
Yeah, the sheet. I'm sorry. Yes, the tab.
There would be, I can't, yeah, it's hard to say without looking at it. There's often like a set, yeah, there's often a setting that'll say like print just current. Usually it's like, it'll come up and say print current sheet, or you can, so I would look for something like that on the print menu, like, right, someone's saying in the chat, you need to select like to print the whole workbook. So I would look in the print settings once you press print, but that should definitely be an option once you've gone to print it.
Okay.
Jaquanda, this is Nate with TrueStar. I have a quick question for you. When you go to save, like you should be able to choose save as well. And when you do that, they give you, there's a pull down. Because I'm a Mac user too. There's a pull down where you can put Excel. It'll allow you to choose Excel or choose PDF, but you have to choose save as, not just save.
Okay, I just did that now while you all are talking, and then I see that under PDF it says workbook sheet or select cells. Are you all saying select workbook?
Yep.
Yeah,
that should do it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was selecting sheet, so let me see how that works out. Thank you all for that, taking time to do that.
Of course, we're all here to help each other. So I love the quick support that everyone's providing, and we don't want people to spend hours on things that shouldn't necessarily take a long time. So reach out to your youth service coordinator. My hope is that you all will start connecting with each other and reaching out to each other, because we're all on the same boat and we're all trying to get through this initial phase of approving budgets and approving work plans. So please let us know if there's anything we can do. Any other questions? Okay, great. So next is just a quick deadline reminder. So someone asked this earlier as well, just to ensure that we're all on the same page. Excuse me, contract documents for every program model are now overdue. I think for year-round and school year, we've given, well, they were in December, I believe, and then CHA year-round, I think the deadline was yesterday. So everyone is overdue. If you have not submitted your contract documents to your contract liaison, please do so ASAP. The contracts team also will reach out to you if they haven't received certain documents, so expect an email from them. If you haven't received emails from anyone, let me know something's going on. I have gotten quite a few bounce backs, but some of them were mixed with out of office because some of you had time off. So that's not an issue. program documents. So we're talking budgets, lease agreements, and work plans have different deadlines. So budget forms for all program models, school year, year-round, and CHA year-round. We are giving each other grace and understanding that we had holiday time. For those of you who submitted documents during that holiday time, even when you were off, thank you, thank you, thank you. We really appreciate your time, and we understand that it might have been a little bit of a scramble, but we also know that we are also working with smaller agencies who maybe didn't have additional support. So we have set that due date to 5 p.m. Tuesday, January 17th. If you have not, if you have not submitted your budget by Tuesday, January 17th, you will get an email from us the next day. So we need to know what's going on. It may take some time for us to process and get through these, but we want to at least know that there's something there to work with. So please share with your budget folks if they are not on this call, and let them know. And scopes and work plans, year-round and school year, those will be due by 5 p.m. on January 17th. So you have a couple more days to complete that. If you do not see if you have not gotten your login, or if you do not see your program in your agency information, let us know. Reach out to CitySpan or let us know, whichever you have easier access to. Otherwise, again, you're going to get notified the next day if we have not received that. And then CHA year-round work plans will probably be available by the end of this week. And then we'll set a due date of about a few days later, because you can already work on those responses now. So it's not going to be something that you don't know what we're going to be collecting, but we'll send a detailed email of when to expect that and then when it is due. Great question, Juanita. I would advise you, so she asked if we realize based on this call that we need to make corrections before we have heard back from our team, should we make the change and resubmit the forms? My suggestion is, or my request is, yes, email your youth services coordinator and say, I realize it'll be easier if you reply to the initial email you sent and say, I realize that I sent something incorrectly. I'm going to work on it and I will send it to you by X date, by Tuesday, right? The latest, but by X date, so that they know not to review and they know to wait for your response. This is very thoughtful and I really appreciate this. So just to reiterate, if you do realize you've made some you've made a submission that's incorrect based on this call, I ask that you reply to the email that you originally sent to your program manager, youth services coordinator, and you say, I am going to work on the corrections. I will send them to you by the latest Tuesday, the 17th. That way the youth services coordinator are in the middle of working on stuff. So they are, they will acknowledge that you have that time that you're going to be working on it. Okay. So what else do we have here? Can we make the work plans editable? Each year I have Tesca Core come into Word. We will definitely consider this for next year. Melissa, I think we're at a little bit of a too late phase. I think for summer, if anyone applies for summer and gets funded, we can certainly take this into consideration. I think it is a good point. You have to type them somewhere anyway. So we'll definitely look into that. Thank you for the suggestion. All right. Jaquanda, did you still have your hand up or is that from before?
No, that's a new hand.
Okay, great.
It's also Jacinda, just so everybody knows. Jaquanda's
Oh, I'm
also-
sorry.
That's okay. It's probably because it says that in the Zoom.
It does.
The other question that I have is, so it seems like there might be a formula error, because the budget allocation on Form 1, the amount changes according to Form 2 and Form 3. And typically that amount is frozen and we can't touch it. But, you know, we obviously, Forms 2 and 3 populate Form 1, but it's populating the budget allocation. Just FYI. Am I making sense too? It usually never does that.
Okay,
Meaning it's changing. So if our allocation is, you know, 40,000, it's changing according to what we're budgeting.
we have the finance team on the call, so they can probably answer this better. Antonio and or Mahida, if either of you know if that's a dynamic cell, like if it should change.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. This is Antonio Zamaran. So we're looking at on the screen, we're looking at budget allocation right under the 2023 year. So
Yes.
As the data gets filled in the previous forms, it basically carries over to that particular cell. So for example, if your agency has a $50,000 budget for this particular year, as you fill in the personnel or Form 3, then it should carry over and your budget allocation should tie to the total amount on Form 1, if that makes sense.
So it's a sum.
I think I'm not being clear. In the previous years on Form 1, the way that it worked was Form 1 on the line that says budget allocation, that amount never changed. It was frozen because it's what you all, the amount of money that you all are have awarded us. Every other line does populate from Form 2 and Form 3. What I'm noticing this time is that the budget allocation will change according to whatever I'm putting in. Meaning someone could make a mistake and do their budget wrong. And instead of having $40,000 allocation, they could end up with 42,000. But so just to be mindful that that's happening, that's new. In the previous years, it was locked and you couldn't change that number.
Okay, yeah, that's actually a formula, and it's actually coming from G26, the cell G26. So that's how that particular total amount gets carried over to the budget allocation. I mean, I understand that in previous years, I guess the number was just entered there and it wouldn't change.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying, Antonio, is that I get that it's coming from cell G26, but like I said, if G26 is under or over that budget allocation, people just need to be mindful that it up there, it's populating. They just need to be mindful. Like if there's
Understood.
several, okay.
Yeah, I think it's a good heads up. It's also a good way of checking your calculations. So that's going to create a sum of the information that you've input in terms of grant award share. So there's pros and cons, right? Like it could be locked, and then at the end of the day, that if it is locked and the calculation isn't summing up to what it should, we need to do some legwork to make sure that that is checked. So that is where our team and also the finance team will ensure and look at that cell and say, okay, that's not correct. That's not what your award letter says. So that's a great heads up for everyone else who hasn't completed this or is working on it, that's a dynamic cell that's creating, or that's based on a formula. So thank you for pointing that out.
I think you guys are missing my point, but if you want feedback later, I'll explain to you my point because I feel like I'm taking up a lot of time.
Yeah, no worries. I think
okay.
a lot of folks have similar thoughts, so no problem.
I also wanted to share with you that Caesar mentioned to me, folks who are filling this out, that don't worry about filling out the standard PO on Form 2 and 3, that we're not, because those cells are locked. But he said that's okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, we will go back to where we were. Just a couple more slides before we have time for additional questions. The enrichment.
Maria,
go ahead, Caesar.
Just to clarify that, the PO number, I I mean, I know some people have had difficulty in entering that, but that should be entered. And everybody should have their PO number from the budget award letter. And that's one of the things that I've been seeing throughout that's been missing, and also on L11, hold on a second. Like L should be 1123-1231-24, and then N 1123-1231-2023. So on that side, on the right side, K, L, and N should be filled.
She was just saying that they're locked on forms 2 and 3. But
Oh,
yes,
correct.
you should complete them on form 1, and all of that information is in your award letter.
Correct. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. So in terms of submission status, here's what we're looking at. So for those of you who have not submitted budgets and or scopes, if you have not heard from us, you will hear from us soon. In both for year-round and school year, and for CHA year-round, we have 6 contracts and we have 1 budget submitted. So you do have until Tuesday. So all of the program models do have until 5 p.m. on the 17th to submit your budget documents. And then just to go through some quick notes, especially for those of you who are new, or maybe you're a returning agency, but you haven't worked with us before because you're a new staff. Wanting to go through the roles of the youth services coordinator. So the folks that you're going to be working with day in and day out. There may be times during the year that you're going to work with folks from other teams that coordinate other trainings, things like that. But the main point of contact with the enrichment contracts is with your youth services coordinator. They will do contractual review and approval, which is what we're in the middle of right now. They're going to do contractual oversight and compliance. So throughout the year, you'll be receiving updates on where you are with your expenditures, where you are with your youth served, things like that. They're going to be doing data management and review. So they'll look at where there may be gaps in anything in CitySpan, anything related to CitySpan. They're conducting site visits throughout the year. So we're back and in person. There should be no programs conducting virtual programming unless there is a completely unusual situation, in which case you do have to let us know, but all programming needs to be in person. Youth services coordinators are going to be conducting site visits. For the most part, those will be planned site visits. So you'll work with your youth services coordinator to get a planned site visit, but we do have the right to conduct unannounced site visits. Just so everyone is aware of that, that is part of your contract. If there are any concerns and we're not hearing from folks, we may just pop in. That is not our preference, but it certainly is something that we are able to do. And then also performance review meetings. We are continuing those for those who are returning, but those really are an opportunity for us to review where folks are at in terms of their contract, but also to talk about successes and challenges in every aspect. So whether it's recruitment, parent engagement, events that have been happening, anything like that, you'll get a notification of what that looks like soon. Any programmatic support. So if you're running a STEM program and you're wondering if there are any resources that we have access to or that we know about that could be helpful to the young people that you serve, certainly reach out to your youth services coordinator. And then technical support with DFSS systems. So if you have anything that you're working with that you need support in, please reach out to them as well. And if they can't answer the question, they'll refer you to the person who can. I welcome you all to put ideas you may have or things that you need, opportunities for other support that they can provide, that the YSCs can provide in the chat. You can send it to me privately if you want. You can email us after, you can put it in the feedback survey, anything that whatever way you decide you want to communicate that. But we do welcome other opportunities for support if your specific agency or program does need that. Okay, So I mentioned delegate meetings earlier. I mentioned the performance review meetings, but there are a series of delegate meetings that as part of your contract, you have agreed to attend. So we are expecting representation from every agency at these meetings. We will be super clear about what each of these looks like. So performance review meetings, learning cohorts are large meetings where the entire portfolio will come together and discuss and talk about certain things. Excuse me, learning communities are new this year, and they may happen by program specialty area. So every program selected a primary specialty area in their work plan, whether that was health and wellness, arts, sports, things like that. So we may give you all an opportunity to network with each other, provide ideas, facilitate some questions so that you have a network of folks that you're working with. We can do that by program specialty area, by equity zone, so geographic proximity, by age group. So some of you are working with the littles, 6 to 10-year-olds, and some of you are working with the 18 to 21-year-olds, those young people that vote with their feet. So we may separate you all in groups, and those, for the most part, are opportunities for you all to talk to each other, not to hear from us necessarily. And then DFSS trainings, those are not led by us, but there may be like a vouchering training, invoice training, or a budget revision training, something like that. And you'll get notification of that from our team. And we'll share the schedule for that in upcoming meetings and the frequency of those. And where we are able, we will share actual dates for those things. And then I will pass it over to Tess. I was actually supposed to pass it over to her in this slide, but I'll pass it over to her to talk about the welcome event. Before I do that, I think, Jacinda, did you have an additional question? Okay, no.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, no worries. I'll hand it over to Tess to talk about the welcome event.
Yeah, so we are excited to be hosting an in-person welcome event for all of our enrichment delegates, as well as some other delegates from the DFSS Youth Services Division. This is going to be an in-person session hosted March 3rd from 9 to 3, and it's going to be at Malcolm X College in the conference center. So we're really excited. We will share an invitation, registration, and more details soon, but this is going to be an opportunity for us to all meet in person, face to face, be in community and in conversation together, spend some time getting into some of the details of what the contract and work is going to look like over the next couple of years, but also have some time to just hear from one another, learn from one another. And there will be a number of breakout groups that'll focus on specific issues or topics that folks may be really interested in, thinking about, or experienced in, and want to share some of their knowledge with the group. So we're excited about that happening in March. And then leading up to that session, we are going to be having a couple of virtual prep sessions. So those will be with the YSCs and with our team, and those will be an opportunity to get some of the more detailed stuff, set up things out of the way, so that once we come together for that in-person session, sort of some of that background knowledge is already there, and we can get into the real heart of the programming and what you all are, I'm sure, very excited to be doing, which is actually working with young people. So be on the lookout for information about both of those. The virtual sessions will be happening starting in the next couple of weeks, and then the in-person session on March 3rd. And then we also wanted to share a couple of other upcoming opportunities for enrichment funding. So some of you may be aware that we are, between the end of last year and the beginning of this year, releasing 3 RFPs as part of the My Shine, My Future community strategy or community initiative. The first one of those was the Safe Spaces RFP, and currently we have open the Community Anchor Organizations RFP. That is due Friday, February 3rd. We just did an info session about that. If you weren't able to attend, or if you want more information, we'll be sending out an email, or we'll have access to the presentation that we did online, and feel free to email Maria and we can respond with any questions, respond to any questions that you may have about that opportunity. It's a different program. It's different than our existing enrichment program. So it may not be for everyone, but it may be an exciting new opportunity for one of you or for another agency that you partner with or know. So look out for that. And then our summer and CHA summer RFPs for enrichment will be released this month. So we're excited to get those out. And I'm sure many of you have applied for those and plan to apply for those. So those will be out this month. So be on the lookout for an email from us letting you know about those opportunities opening up.
Thank you, Tess.
Thank you.
Any other questions? This is the time to get those either in the chat. If you want to raise your hand, take yourselves off mute. Like I said, our youth services coordinators and Tess and I will be here on the call for the next few minutes. We can plan on staying a little bit longer if folks have longer questions, but this is the time to get anything that you don't have clear in that. Want to make sure that you have our contact information. So in our follow-up, we will send all of our contact information out. In addition to our general enrichment inbox or email inbox, you may sometimes get emails from that. So it's dfssyouthdivision.enrichment@cityofchicago.org. Or from one of us in particular. So we will send all of that contact information out in a follow-up, but I will open it up for questions. Liz is going to throw a feedback survey in the chat. We ask that you complete it. It takes a couple of minutes, not even that, just to let us know what you thought of today, if this was helpful. We're always looking to improve, and we want to make sure that we are addressing the questions that you have and the needs that you have. So stay tuned for additional information. Stay tuned for the invitation. Thank you to the enrichment group for all of your support. And thank you all for being here and for sharing this information with us. And we look forward to getting your budgets by next week and your work plans and all of that good stuff. So stay tuned for all of the follow-up and let us know if anything else comes up.
Maria, it's Melissa again. Quick question.
Sure.
You said that for the new city span, parents are going to have to add the YouTube city span and it's not going to be on the staff. What does the staff want? What if it's better for the staff to add the kids and not the parents? Can we still add them, or is it just solely based on the parent?
We'll talk through that with you all. Generally, I'm sure you all have a process. Malcolm, before you jump off, I saw your question. I sent you a direct message. Can you let me know what agency you're from so I know who to connect you with? And I can connect you with the YSC to let you know where the program forms are located. Let's chat offline, Melissa, because we are still that's still under development. I believe that will be an option if an agency wants to do that, because agencies will designate themselves as the person adding the youth. But more information is to come. It's still not finalized.
Okay, and I'm asking because it's right now our Boys and Girls Club application is online, and we already have a difficult time having parents complete that. And now we're talking about another online application. So I'm just expecting some issues, but okay.
That makes sense. That makes sense, because then if it's a matter of like transferring information, like transferring data. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll follow up with you, Malcolm.
Hello, I'm Wai from Puitak Center.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I have some questions. It's more like details in about the contract that I see. So I'm not sure if I should ask it over here or like, for example, like one of the target audience for us is let's say for the school level 2 or level 3, but then But then I think that when I look into the CPF's website, I think they don't rate the school this year. So I'm not sure, like, are we going to?
You could use the former ratings. So they haven't done that in I think in a couple of years, but the ratings are still there, or they're still available. So you can use the old ones.
Yeah, I'll try to look for it, because I did look into the current website. They just say that it's not rated, and then I cannot find any previous record, but I'll try it, yeah.
Let me, can you shoot me an email?
Sure, no
Yeah,
problem.
because I think what was listed in the RFP may still be an active website, and that gave you a list, but if not, I can send that to you.
Okay. Yeah, so I have a couple more similar question about, so I'll just keep asking then, okay. So my program is new to the funding. So one thing is that I think you require, like it sets all the volunteer and staff and whoever working for the program should be CPR and first aid certified. My program currently do not have everyone did that, as only me. Not sure is that a requirement for everyone that's work in the program that needs to do it. Yeah.
Yes, it should be for the folks that are spending the majority of time with the young people.
Yes.
So that's should be outlined in your work plan, if that's what you're referencing.
Correct.
So yeah, so it should be, because we want to make sure that folks are equipped, that the folks that are working with young people are equipped to use that if needed. Hopefully not, but they should be equipped with that.
So if my program, let's say 5 days a week, and someone just come like once a week, is that a majority of time, or?
No.
I don't think so. Okay.
No.
And then another question is, we have some volunteers to come in, and they have they will do online background check, but they don't do a fingerprint background check. Is that sufficient enough, or is a fingerprint background check required?
If employees require a background check.
Our employees all have background,
Okay.
Fingerprint background check. Is only volunteers that maybe come once a week. They only do online background check. Is that okay for them?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And then
I want to give others an opportunity to ask questions. Not that, yeah. If you want to list any other questions that you may have, and include them in that email. Caesar's going to be out of office starting tomorrow. He is your youth services coordinator. And these are great questions for him, but he is going to be out of the office. So I'm happy to try to answer as many as I can. And if not, get the answers for the rest of them as well.
Sure, thank you.
I want to make sure that you also have record of it. Marcus, you had a question. Hi, Marcus.
Hey, Maria, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year as well.
I know I've been away for a while, and I'm just curious, do you guys still provide mini grants during the summer for youth to apply for? I'm just trying to plan out our year.
Mini grants, like at what point did we do that? That might have been before me.
Okay, like at one point, like I think the mini grants were maybe like $500 to $1,000, and it was basically for the youth to apply to do some type of community service project or activity in the community.
So Karen and Caesar might remember that a little bit better, but that's not in the works this year, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, we did that about almost 10 years ago, and we haven't brought that back. But thank you for the question. I think we could discuss this among ourselves. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
We are gonna have a micro grant RFP where an agency will be funded to distribute micro grants to agencies for youth programming, but it's not directly related to young people. So we don't have that available this year.
But in
Okay.
general, I'd say keep an eye on the My Shine My Future work that we're doing, because there are going to be a lot of events, and there My Shine My Future, like the city does some things that are around service projects. So just keep an eye on what they're doing, because there are a lot of opportunities there.
Okay, great.
Marcus.
Hi, Maria. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. This is Ramiro from Alternative Schools Network.
Hello.
I just have more of a general question.
Sure.
You know, whenever we get notices of trainings like this, I always like to disseminate the information to whoever's the best person for it. For my area, I mean, I'm just a person, little person who just vouchers and then works with budget. So, but I still want to forward, like you talking about CitySpan, which I don't work with, but I wanted to forward this information to. But I guess my question is, whenever you send something comes out that says enrichment programs, I don't know specifically who to send it out. Is it, you know, I voucher or I help voucher with the Title 20 program, the SCAN program. So I guess I'm asking, when you say enrichment programs or enrichment contracts or year-round, school year, which programs that it ought applies to the what I'm, you know, under what umbrella it falls under?
So it's in the award letters is listed as out of school time programming. I don't know if that helps. Every agency has different ways of, like, they've named it differently.
Yeah.
But it's in the award letters, it's listed as out of school time programming and then the program model. So it may be out of school time year round, out of school time school year, things like that.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, so for this specific training that I'm assuming I saw that it's being recorded. So this is really kind of was for the
Programmatic.
or ST program, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'll make sure that when I get it, then I can forward that to the specific.
Yeah, we generally try to cover as much as is needed. So it may be finance, it may be contracts, which is why I put, you know, contracts information session, because it included several aspects. We will also try to, you know, include target audience in invitations that we send. I alluded to it earlier, but we will try to send out a schedule of meetings ahead of time so you all know, but there may be things like this that pop up because we're seeing a need for it. So in which case we will try to say, this is the target audience of the people we're trying to get in the meeting. So we'll try to get better about that as well.
Thank you, Maria.
Sure, no problem. Juanita asked, I'm sure, so what is the estimated time frame for disbursements? Are you referring to like a vouchering reimbursement? That takes a bit of time and we'll go through timelines of that. So I didn't even cover when vouchers are to be submitted and when things like that, but we will go through that in some of the prep sessions coming up. It can take weeks though, just because sometimes there are deletions or rejections or things that need to get corrected. So it may take some time. No worries. I feel like people have questions, or maybe you all missed that you're free to go. If you don't have questions, I am happy to continue answering questions as they come up, but we are good to go. Please complete that survey if you haven't already.